Welcome, educators. Today, we are diving into the exciting world of visible learning signature practice number 4 with our fourth micro course on this topic, teaching students to drive their learning. Today, we have a special focus on how students seek feedback, recognize their learning, and even teach others. Our core learning intention for this session is simple yet powerful. I am learning to empower students to drive their learning. And how will we know if we've hit the mark? By the end of this session, you should be able to develop students' ability to seek feedback and recognize that errors are an incredible opportunity to learn. We also should be able to develop students' understanding of what they've learned and their amazing ability to teach others. In visible learning, effect sizes show how much a strategy helps students grow. An average effect size is zero point 0.4. That's 1 year of learning in 1 year. Feedback has a whopping 0.75 effect size. That's almost double the impact. It means specific, timely feedback is one of the most powerful tools that we have to boost learning. Whether it's from a teacher, a peer, or even self reflection, great feedback helps students know where they are, where they're going, and how they can improve. Bottom line, feedback isn't just helpful, it's a learning superpower. Let's quickly revisit that engagement continuum. Remember, our students are dynamic learners, constantly moving along this continuum for a variety of reasons. We want to foster an environment where they're not just passively sitting and getting, but they are actively participating, driving, and investing in their learning. Notice that this title says learners are seeking feedback rather than receiving feedback. Students who drive their own learning actively seek help and feedback from their peers and teachers. Teachers and peers may provide significant amounts of feedback, and that doesn't change a thing. But when we are seeking feedback, we are all much more likely to accept and act upon the feedback that we receive. Feedback literacy means students' understanding of the role of feedback in their learning. The four important factors related to feedback literacy include appreciating feedback as a means to strengthen their learning, while also understanding that feedback comes in a variety of forms, making judgments so that students can accurately judge their work and the work of peers and participate in peer critique opportunities, managing affect to avoid being defensive and making it a habit to seek feedback from others, and taking action in a product of the first three. That students must act upon the feedback and have a repertoire of strategies for doing so. Seeking feedback requires that students understand that errors are opportunities to learn and not a source of embarrassment, shame, or humiliation. This comes from the climate of the classroom that has been created and maintained by the teacher and the students. Feedback frames, such as those shown here, can help normalize the process of seeking and receiving feedback. Think about how these feedback frames could be posted in your classroom for students to refer to when they are ready to seek or give feedback. Students should understand there are 4 possible learning events. Of the 4 conditions, unproductive failure in the bottom left yields the smallest gains, as students' thinking is not guided in any way, and they are just expected to discover what should be learned. Conversely, unproductive success is also of very limited value, as students in this condition primarily rely on memorization but don't even get to why and how the information should be applied. There is no transfer of knowledge. But for students to drive their learning, they need to also experience productive failure. Learning from errors ensures that learners persist in generating and exploring representations and solutions incorporating the support they receive from others. And with productive success conditions, students are guided to resolve problems, not just memorize formulas. Now, let's look at some of the specific teacher actions that foster students' ability to seek feedback and recognize that errors are opportunities to learn. Model seeking feedback yourself. Show students the excitement of using feedback to improve. Also, model making mistakes. Show students that you learn something valuable from the errors that you make. Leverage clear success criteria to support effective peer-to-peer feedback. Give students the opportunity to use what they know before you step in to refine their knowledge or further develop skills. Conversely, there are some teacher actions that derail students' ability to seek feedback and recognize that errors are opportunities to learn. If teachers assume that feedback was given was actually received, that can derail students. We need to check for student understanding. If we wait until the very end of an assignment to provide feedback, that can also derail students. Feedback is most impactful when it's timely and allows for action. Asking students to give peer-to-peer feedback without clearly communicating how to do that and the success criteria. Students need to know what they're looking for. Asking students to memorize information or complete tasks without understanding the relevance of the task. When learning feels meaningless to students, the feedback loses its power. Finally, let's explore how learners recognize their learning and teach others. This is where the magic truly happens. When students have the chance to recognize what they've learned and then teach it to someone else, they're not just teaching, they're relearning those concepts and skills at an even deeper level. The tools students use to monitor their progress also help them recognize their success in learning and where they need to move next to enhance their learning. Students learn that there are different kinds of learning. Students begin to ask themselves key questions like, what level of knowledge do I need to demonstrate? And what new habits do I have to build during the learning process? This metacognitive awareness is a hallmark of truly driven learners. When learning has occurred, we can demonstrate it anytime and anywhere, do things that used to be difficult with more ease, perform new skills or recall information, recognize that our behavior, thinking, or feelings have changed, and most critically, when we have learned, we have the ability to teach others. Peer tutoring models provide students with opportunities to recognize their learning and teach others. There are 6 main tutoring models. The first one is class-wide peer tutoring. This should happen weekly with small student groups of 2 to 5, where students practice and review assigned content with each student rotating between the tutor and tutee roles. Peers explain work, ask questions, and provide feedback on the teacher-assigned material. The next model is cross-age peer tutoring. This is where older students are paired with younger students, and older students have the responsibility to serve as the tutor. The third model is peer-assisted learning strategies. Pairs of students work together in this model, taking turns tutoring and being tutored. The fourth model is same-age peer tutoring. Not all students are engaged in tutoring at the same time, as would be the case for the class-wide peer tutoring. Reciprocal peer tutoring has students paired at random to support the learning of their peers. And the last model is called Teach Back. This provides students opportunities to teach back what they have learned, and we know that this is good for their learning, and it's a great opportunity to determine what has stuck and if students have any misconceptions. So let's look at the teacher actions that increase students' understanding of what they have learned and their ability to teach others. The first would be to provide instruction on how to give growth producing feedback. We have to teach this to our students explicitly. We also need to plan opportunities for students to interpret data and information gained from examining formative practice assessments. Additionally, placing value on the act of examining one's work over just the correctness of the work allows students to hear your own internal decision-making process as a teacher. Foster a culture of supportive peer relationships and make intentional decisions about how to partner students for effective peer learning. And on the flip side, there are things we need to be aware of that teachers could do that would derail students' understanding of what they have learned and their ability to teach others. Be aware that expecting students to use a rubric or self-assess with criteria that hasn't been modeled or processed isn't effective. Providing opportunities for peers to give each other feedback without training the students on how to do that and how to give and receive feedback also can derail your efforts. Setting up peer tutoring experiences without students having solidified their own skills could derail the process as well. And lastly, setting up peer tutoring experiences where some students never get the opportunity to be the tutor can be problematic. Everyone deserves a chance to be in the tutor role. Remember, our overall arching learning intention throughout this learning path was to empower students to drive their learning. And our success criteria was to, in this micro course, was to develop students' ability to seek feedback and recognize that errors are opportunities to learn. We also learned how to develop students' understanding of what they learned and their ability to teach others. Take a moment and reflect on these success criteria. You just completed the final microcourse for the Visible Learning Signature Practice number 4, Teaching Students to Drive Their Learning. Thank you for being here with us along this journey and for your commitment to empowering our students. Let's continue to build a visible learning environment where every student is a driver of their own success.